Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. We're on episode 150. Wow, that's crazy. Can't believe we got to 150 episodes. I started this podcast a few years ago, and really my objective was to guide people on their spiritual journey and really help people to understand that the spiritual journey isn't as complex as we make it sound. So, I am blown away by how many messages we get on this podcast on a weekly basis and just the impact it's having. So thank you. I feel very, very blessed. And this podcast wouldn't be where it is without my beautiful co-host. So the regular co-host, I'd love to introduce Stacey, the healer extraordinaire and the stunning and now published author, Stacey Brown. Stace, now I have to introduce you the normal way, right?
Yes, of course. It wouldn't be the same without it. Still makes me laugh every time. But hi, friends. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. I absolutely love being on this podcast. And I recently published my first book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, available on Amazon and Audible. Really looking forward to this topic today.
Thank you, Stacey. And how does it feel when I say episode 150?
So mind-blowing because, I started with you at episode 17. And here we are a couple of years later, still diligently cranking out content for people to simplify spirituality and get people to think a little bit more introspectively. And I'm grateful for this space. I know that we're having an impact based off the messages we receive every single week from people listening. And it just feels like a real blessing to be a part of this.
It is definitely feels like a real blessing. And, I've consciously tried to get to reach more people and get different perspectives, which is why you've recently been seeing more guests on this podcast. It really is just an effort to get more perspective in a different way of hearing different voices, because different voices have a different impact. So let us know how that's going. So a quick intro for me. I'm Nims. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, spiritual coach and mentor. And I feel so blessed in the work I get to do. I get to guide people to shine their light, to understand their programming so they can be truly authentic. And it just feels like right now it's the time it's what everybody needs, because energetically we've been going through so much. And there is something special we wanted to do on this podcast, on this episode. We were just talking about it before we started recording and said, well, okay, what can we do for the listeners? And we love the mentorship program that we do. It is really changing lives. So we thought what we'd do is, for the first 3 people that reach out and set up a discovery call with us, we'll offer you the promotion of getting 4 months worth of mentorship for 3. So normally our program is 3 months mentorship. It's a 12-week program. But we thought, you know what, something nice to offer our listeners is 4 for the price of 3. So, and it's limited, right? We have a limited amount of time. So we thought, for the first 3 people that reach out, that book a discovery call, and obviously book within a certain time frame, we will offer you 4 months for the price of 3. So do reach out, DM us. I'll include our website details in the show notes. Book a discovery call, and let's see if the mentorship program is perfect for you. What it does is guide you to really be your authentic self. So I'm excited about that promo. How do you feel about it, Stacey?
I absolutely adore mentorship. I just got off a call with a client this morning and I was invigorated by it. I love the process of helping people, and I love that we collaborate together and bring something special to people with the combination of the divine masculine and feminine energies that we both carry. And the fact that we channeled this program, a lot of effort went into making sure that we are doing things in a way that is going to benefit you for the long term. And we first bring you into an awareness of who you are right now and what you're doing right now. And then we take you into why you are the way you are. And then we introduce you to some modalities and tools to help you move forward in your life and have more of a spiritual connection. So it's a very structured program, and we can customize to the individual, which is beautiful. And it's something that I'm deeply passionate about, and I know you are too.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. It's changing lives. But I'm excited to get into this week's topic. So this week's topic, we're going to talk about the role of surrender in spiritual evolution. And it's interesting in terms of, the journey we're on and the energy that everyone I really feel is feeling right now because of the conversations we have with our clients, etc. It's everybody can feel change happening, but can at the same time wants to know what's coming next. Wants to kind of like a roadmap, can feel things churning, can feel so much change, and like the ego really wants to know what's coming next. And I really feel energetically the where we're at is really it's about surrender. How much control do we really have? If you think about the last few years, how much control do we really have? So letting go and surrendering is so important. And it's that and I get we make it sound easy, right? But it is, I guess in summary, what does surrender look like for me? It's letting go of your expectations of how things are going to be delivered. Sure, focus on what you want to manifest and what kind of how it's going to come to you, and maybe being open to things being even bigger or different than you wanted. Because again, I go back, how much control do we really have? The only thing we control is this moment. And if we can focus on this moment, then the next moment becomes even better. So surrendering is really letting go and trusting your guides, the universe, to take kind of control. And that doesn't mean, by the way, surrender doesn't mean you don't do self-care and you don't meet the universe halfway, you don't do the things that you need to do. But what your future looks like and really being open to what that magic of that could be, for me, that's what surrender is. And like I said, go back to the last few years. How much control do you really feel that you had? Look at everything that's happened. I mean, if you could, from lockdown to everything that's happened this year in terms of karmic cycles closing, so much has happened. And really, if you try and hold on to your expectations, if you try and hold on to how things are going to be, that's when you start to get frustrated. That's when you start to feel pain. It's also when you miss the magic, because when you expect things to go a certain way and they don't, you start to focus on why things are not working rather than actually taking a stop and looking at the magic that's happening all around you. So, Stacey, I know the word surrender means a lot to you. It's even in your book. So when I say to you, what's the role of surrender in our spiritual journey? What does that mean to you?
So it's interesting because I feel like surrender has been the theme for me for quite some time. And for me, it was giving up my idea of what I thought things were supposed to look like for whatever my higher power has in store for me. And that path has looked very, very different than what I could have expected. And I've told the story on a couple of the podcasts that we've done together about surrendering in the grocery store parking lot and the powerful experience that I had with that. And just to recap, I was listening to a podcast. Ironically enough, it was a sermon. And the pastor of the church was talking about what it means to be a superhero. And that a lot of us have the idea that a superhero has these powers beyond humans, that you can scale a building or lift a car or you can fly. And he said, but what a real superhero is someone who gives up the idea of what their life was going to look like for whatever God has in store. And he asked who wanted to surrender, raise your hand. And though I was in the car by myself in the grocery store parking lot, I raised my hand and I said the words, I surrender, God, use me. And when that happened, a couple of short weeks later, my son overdosed in our home and survived. And then a couple months later, attempted to take his own life. And I had no idea that that would be a part of my story, Nims. Like I just had no clue that I would watch one of my children suffer in that way and nearly lose their life. And it was the beginning of the path of me truly surrendering. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't surrendered. Um, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't get to work with you in the way that we do and impact people's lives. I was very comfortable in my life. I knew being a hairdresser really well. I knew being a wife and a mother really well. I knew those roles and I knew how to play them. And God had other plans. God had other plans that were much bigger than mine. And I will say that surrender in the grocery store parking lot has probably happened dozens of times since then, where I've had to say, okay, I'm not sure what this is, but I'm going to trust that you have my back. And I'm going to trust that the outcome is for my highest good. And I've had to do that over and over and over again. And I would say, even as we go into a podcast episode, Nims, I don't know about you, but like we talk about the podcast episode and decide what topic we're going to speak about. And then I feel like there's a process every time of surrendering and just saying,
Yeah.
okay, whatever is meant to come through in this podcast, we're going to trust that process. So I feel like surrender is not just something that I've done in a big moment like the grocery store parking lot, but it's something that I've done repeatedly since that time. And can I just add that it's scary as hell to surrender? Like,
And it could come with a health warning, right?
yeah. And I really want to say that because I have a feeling that there are some listeners who are thinking, she's making this sound so simple. And it's really not, because you're literally saying, I'm not in charge anymore. I am turning this over to my higher power to be whatever it's meant to be. And that can be a really scary place when you're somebody who's used to being in control or feeling like you're in control. And the process of surrender is saying, I'm not in control, right?
Yeah.
This
And
is not
our
about me.
ego wants us to control things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. And it is, it is simple, but it requires courage, I guess is the way I'd say it. And Stacey, I'm going to ask you in a minute to, let's do that process on here. Let's ask people to surrender in a second. Just giving you a moment because we didn't pre-plan it. So might put you on the spot. But here's the thing, right? It's that sometimes we really feel we have a choice. And, if you look at the example that Stacey gave, she chose to surrender in the grocery store. We call it car park. You guys call it parking lot. And yes, it led to a lot of like a roller coaster of changes, lots of things that I'm sure she wouldn't wish on anyone else, and neither would I. But also, it generated and created the healer that she is today. And that's the power of surrender in terms of you letting go and letting the universe guide you to your destiny. And that's the thing. It's like the universe has a role to play to expand us, to push us, to help us to complete and meet our destiny. And I really feel that the nudges that the universe gives us start small, they start simple. But when we don't listen, the nudges become bigger and bigger. And that's the thing. If we don't listen to the messages, if we don't really follow the nudges and let go and surrender, then I really do believe the messages get louder. And it's like, I think of my journey and my spiritual journey before I wasn't spiritual. I was very corporate. I was becoming and planning to become CEO of the world. I was very, very mental at the time, and I was very good at it, and I was very successful. And in my awakening, a friend of mine at the time decided I was being too successful and decided to do some kind of black magic, as you'd call it, and that led me down a path of being made redundant in lots of dark spaces. But it also helped me to understand the spirituality around me. And I would say there was a moment then when I chose to surrender and truly allow the universe to take me on the spiritual path. yes, for a while I was looking for people to fix me, tell me what I need to do, and I'll be fixed. But then over time, with that surrender, I realized that everything I need is inside me. So there is a cost, and there is a, sometimes we need a bit of really big kick to kind of awaken, or whatever that might look like. But it is part of our spiritual awakening. It is part of our completing our destiny. So I do believe really surrendering and letting go is part of our journey. It's that, how much faith do we have in our guides, in what the universe has in store for us? Because the more that we try and control it, like I said, we don't really have much control. So the more that we can just surrender and let go, and it is scary, right? It's like you're on a roller coaster and you have no control over anything. But what if it takes you to what you're here to do on this planet? What if it opens you up to a whole different way of being? And I really do believe, and the reason we chose this topic this time was, I really do believe that this is a phase where we've been asked to surrender, where we don't really understand what's coming. We have no idea. And it is a leap of faith. So Stace, why don't you take us through a process where we ask our listeners to truly surrender?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful idea and something we've never done before. So I love this idea. So, friends, wherever you are right now, if you're driving, I encourage you to pull over before you do this process. If you're out taking a walk, then this is the perfect space to be because you're in nature. And I want you all to envision for a moment that you're not in charge anymore. I want you to imagine in your mind's eye what you thought it meant to be a superhero in this world. What does that look like? And now I want you to envision that in your human existence, you have the power to become a superhero. You have the power to give up your idea of what you thought your life was going to look like for whatever your higher power has in store. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. I want you to take a nice, deep, cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to envision that you're standing right now at the front of a circle of all of these people that you love dearly, people that you trust. Maybe you want to include your spirit guides and your soul family in that circle. And I want you to imagine that your back is facing them. And you lay your hands over your chest. And without trying to control the outcome, you lean back into the arms of those that you love and trust who are there to catch you. This is the ultimate trust fall. And now, wherever you are in the world, whatever you have going on, I want you to pause for a moment and set that aside. I want you to take your hands and place them out in front of you, palms facing up. And in whatever words feel comfortable to you in acknowledging your higher power, I want you to repeat after me. I surrender, God, my higher power. Use me. Now I want you to take both of your hands and place them over your heart center. And in this moment, I want you to trust that whatever is meant for you will find you. Whatever your mission is on this planet, God, the universe, your higher power, your angels and your guides are all aligning to make that happen. Trust the process. Trust that you're here for a purpose. My friend, you have just surrendered in the most beautiful way possible. Now let the magic happen.
Wow. So beautiful. Love it. Thank you, Stace. And, both me and Stace gave some examples that meant that we had to go through some intense situations. And here's the thing. We are a soul having human experiences. Sometimes we need to go through intense things, right? We're here to, and so, anyone that's listening to the podcast have probably heard me say, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And that's the thing. It's like when you surrender, it does open you up to some intense things. It is. I joke with Stace all the time. It's like when I met him, we started working together. I had no idea that I was joining a roller coaster. You know what I mean? So, and it started like a crazy sequence of events which none of us could have predicted. And and I met Stace on Clubhouse, and when we met, I had no idea that she was going to visit the UK many times, and we are going to become business partners, and we are going to do all these things together. It was like I just thought I was saying hello to somebody that when she shared her story vulnerably, I just wanted to say well done to you. So, but surrender is also trusting the nudges, and it's just that day. So Clubhouse is an audio only app. It has a stage where people are talking, and it has an audience where people are listening. So I was driving at the time, and I was just, what, I'm just going to listen. I'm driving. Normally I'm on stage, I'll talk, whatever. But I was like, what, today I'm just going to listen. I had a friend at the time who was co-modding with Stace, and I was like, I don't want to, encroach. So I just like listen. And they shared her story so vulnerably, and I was like, oh, you know what? Let me just go on stage. First time I heard her speak. Let me just say well done, because people don't always share vulnerably. And that was a nudge I got. And I trusted that nudge and went on. And we went then through phases of me being in her rooms. Every time I'd go into a room, I had this habit of asking expansive questions. It's just, I get a nudge. It's not coming from me. I get a channeled message to say, ask this question. So I went in her room for a couple of times, and every time I'd come in, she's like, all right, Nims, what's my question? And somehow every time I'd make her cry. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't my intention. But again, it's like there's different stages of surrendering. Surrendering is also listening to your nudges. And for some reason, I got the nudge to. And then one time I got a nudge to say to Stace, all right, Stace, what do you want to manifest? Thinking that she'd say, I don't know, something. And she said, I want to manifest a trip to London. I was like, I wasn't expecting that, but okay. And that's how somehow it kind of took us down a path where she visited London, I think like 4 or 5 weeks later, which, when she said it, I was thinking, yeah, she'll visit, because I knew that she's pretty determined, but I was thinking 12 months, 18 months, people talk about this stuff, but Stace being Stace, she was here within, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. So, but that's the other thing is surrendering is different phases, different things. It does involve you letting go. It does involve you leaving your expectations at the door. And it does, for me, for example, I know I'm here to serve. I know that I'll be put in certain situations, going to meet certain people, and I don't know why I'm there, but I just somehow get into a conversation with somebody, or just, and I know that I'm supposed to help that person. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm being sent there. And I just like, you know what? So surrendering is just, it's knowing that you're here to serve, and whatever that looks like, you trust in whatever that looks like. And sometimes we are meant to go through a spiritual awakening. We do go through some deep things. But it really, it is letting go. And sure, redo the process that Stace just took us through. But it is, let me ask you now, what are you trying to manifest? What are you frustrated about now because it's not going the way you wanted it to? What if you could let go of how that looks. What would that look like to you? Because I'm sure there's something right now we're all very frustrated over, that we had certain expectations of where we were going to be right now in this phase of life, or how certain things are going to go. So let me ask you this time, what does that look like? And what if you let go of that frustration, knowing that whatever the universe is planning for you is so much bigger than you could have expected? How easy is it for you to let go? And what does it look like? How does that feel to you, Stace, when I say to you, you know what? I'm sure there's some certain things that you had expectations of how they're going to go, and it hasn't gone that way. How frustrated do you get, and how easy is it for you to let go?
Gosh, Nims, you're really making me be vulnerable on this episode.
There's only one way you can be. You always tell me that, right?
I know. I mean, I think this is so hard because we talk about this often. Like, I wanted a space of my own. And, I kept saying I want a space that's small, that I don't have to worry about like maintaining a yard and gardening and all the intricate details of owning a home. Like, I just wasn't interested in having any of that. And I just wanted a small space of my own that was like my haven. And I have that. I've created exactly what I said I wanted. And there's a part of me that is extremely uncomfortable with it. And it's funny because it's like exactly what I asked for, right? And exactly what I manifested. But it's different than what I expected. And I find myself having to surrender on a regular basis. And why do I feel like I'm going to cry? Like, some episodes, I just cry. Like, I didn't envision my life without a partner. I didn't envision being 47 and divorced again and navigating life on my own. And it has been really challenging for me. I'm used to a partnership. I'm used to doing things with someone. And in my surrender, I've met someone who lives in the UK, and we're in a very long distance relationship and have been for a little over a year. And that's just not something that I would have ever expected. I would never have expected to be in an arrangement where on a day-to-day basis, I'm doing life alone, but then every couple of months I have a partner, right? So this season has been very different than what I expected. And the thing is, what the hell did I expect? Like,
Yeah,
like when I say that,
true.
I'm like, it's different than what I expected. Okay, well, Stacey, what did you expect? And I'm not sure. I mean, I know that this is something that I obviously somehow manifested into my life, right? But I'm not quite sure how in the surrender. But I absolutely feel like this process, I've had to surrender sometimes on a daily basis to be able to navigate this season of my life.
Crazy, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, who knew, right? And yeah, it's just I really believe that it's really hard to spiritually awaken without surrendering, because it opens you up. Like I said, it opens you up to being sent into situations, and situations that you can't control and you're not meant to.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of letting go is so important. And if I look at my life, isn't what I expected. When I started out, I was fully expecting to, be married with you. Yes, and sorry, by the way, I think I'm on some technical issues on my side if that's coming through, but maybe the energy and the vibration of what are we talking about is that loud that who knows, right? But I didn't expect the life I've got. I expected to be continued in the corporate world. I expected to, like I said, be married with kids, and but I also know that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And Stacey, I know the same for you. Everything you've been through, you wouldn't wish on anybody because it was painful. But I also know, and I've seen the healer in you grow to be the healer you are today. And I also know that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today if you hadn't experienced everything you've experienced.
Yeah, there's no way.
Do you have regrets? Do you have, when you think back to that time when you surrendered, would you have done anything differently?
Here we go, crying again. I didn't know that by me choosing to save myself, that I was giving up my marriage, and my family unit. I didn't know that at the time. When I made the trip to the UK, it was what was on my heart to do. It felt like I needed to go there. It felt like I needed to remove myself from the environment that I was living in order to do some healing and to write my book. And I think if I had known that I was giving up my relationship with that decision, I don't know that I would have gone. So I guess it's good that God didn't let me see that at the time. It wasn't until I returned home, having written my book, that my husband said, I've met someone else. But I did not know that in my surrender, I was going to be giving up so much. I've gotten a lot back in return as far as where I am right now and the clients that I'm seeing and the work that I'm doing. So I wouldn't change anything because it would mean that I would be still doing hair and I wouldn't be helping people in the way that I am. But I will say, if I had known, I don't know if I would have made the same decisions. Like, I don't know. It's really hard to say. If somebody had said to me, your marriage is going to end because of this decision, you're going to sell your family home, you're going to give up the life that you had with your children all under one roof. Like, I don't know if I would have made the same decisions, but I didn't know at the time that that was going to be the price to pay. And yet I know if I was still in my marriage, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing right now. I know I wouldn't be. It was not an environment where I was supported in living my truth. And I feel like right now I'm living more true to who I am than I ever have before. And I know that I'm helping people in a big way. I know that we are helping people in a big way. And so would I change it? No. Would I have changed it had I known? I don't know. Because like I said, the
That's fair.
price was hefty.
And that's fair. No, that's. I appreciate your honesty there, but at the same time, I remember when you visited here for the first time, and there was a part of you that knew that you weren't really happy in your marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember you telling me that. So there is a journey we're going on, and it's that. Look, and there's no right and wrong. That's kind of what a rebirth looks like. It's like when you got married, you thought, and when you bought your dream house, you thought it was your forever moment, right?
Yes.
But then you go through a rebirth, and you know you and your partner at the time had a soul contract where you were meant to teach each other something, and then your soul contract comes to an end. And sometimes we stay in a situation even though we know our soul contract's complete.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that the universe has a role to play to guide us, to help us to understand whatever's come to an end. And you had to change your orbit to kind of start to see things in the way they really were.
Mm-hmm.
And even that for you, when you came to the UK, there was like you just thought you were visiting another country, right? It was a
Mm-hmm.
calling, it was a nudge. And even you meet your current partner, that was something that you couldn't have understood or controlled either, right? And it's that, for me, that's really what surrender is letting go and really kind of trusting. And it is hard, right? Of course we want to understand what the future looks like. Of course we want to control it. And our ego has a role to play, right? Our ego stands for Earth Guide only, wants us to stay the same, doesn't want us to change, doesn't want us to take risks. Because if we take risks, then crazy, pardon my language, but crazy shit might happen, right? So, and we don't really have control over it. So, but Stace, that's why surrender's in the title of your book, right?
Mm-hmm. It's been the theme of everything that I've done the last several years. And it's a theme on a daily basis. There are plenty of days where I get up and I'm like, am I doing what I'm meant to do? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it well? Am I helping enough people? Am I reaching out enough? Am I nurturing relationships? I second guess myself all the time. And when I do that, I go back to the surrender. I go back to letting go and saying, this is not about me. This is about however I'm meant to be used in the world to help people in whatever way that is and what that looks like. And so please, God, navigate this path for me and show me what's meant for me. But it's definitely not been easy.
No, and that's it. But the other beauty of surrender, I also feel it's a big part of you connecting with your gifts and connecting with your guides.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, it's like a lot of our gifts and our connection to guides, our human mind really wants to understand, really wants to put it in a box. You compare how other people connect to their guides and you start to, but really building that connection is a surrender because your gifts are unique to you. Your connection to your guides are unique to you. So if you compare yourself and you expect them to be a certain way, then that's also going to keep you stuck and frustrated. And I think about conversation that I have with people all the time. It's like, I can feel my energy on guides, but I can't see anything. Maybe you're not meant to see anything, but the fact that you're expecting to see something is stopping you from building a connection with your guides. And that is a beautiful example for me where you just got to surrender. However you connect, whatever you feel, whatever you hear, whatever you see is perfect to you. Not right or wrong. And just, letting go is such an important part. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening thinking, well, actually, I want to surrender, but I'm not sure I can.
Mm-hmm.
The process that Stacey went through earlier is a great way of doing it. You know, um, I also know that anyone that signs up for our mentorship program is, in many ways, already also surrendering,
Mm-hmm.
trusting us to guide them. And look, we're not here as mentors, as guides. We're not here to fix anybody, right? We're not. What we're here to do is we're here to guide people to understand who they are. And that is really the power of what I feel that we do. So, but Stace, any advice you have for people that are kind of listening and say, you know what, I really do want to surrender. I really do want to understand why I'm here, but I struggle doing it. What advice would you give?
The number one piece of advice is I know without a doubt I could not have done it alone. I absolutely needed support in order to figure out how to do things differently. Like when you are wanting to do something you've never done before, you've got to find somebody who knows what the heck they're doing to help guide you through it. And for me, it was the mentors in my life. It was the people that came into my life and said, you don't have to live this way anymore. And let me show you a different way of being. Without that, I don't know how I would have done this process. And it was literally so guided that the mentors that I needed at the time in my life came into my life exactly when I needed them. And I knew there was some sort of connection there. And I pursued it. I didn't waver. It was like, I think there's a certain amount of humility you have to have in order to surrender. And it's very humbling to say, I can't do this on my own. I need help. That's a very humbling process. And I think a lot of us in this world think that we're supposed to figure it out on our own, or that, we have to figure it out on our own. Maybe we've never had that support before. And there's this desire for change, but you just think it's just going to magically come. And for me, it was the people in my life who guided me that brought me to the space of understanding myself in a way that I hadn't before. And through that process of understanding myself, then I was able to show up in the world the way that I was meant to. So to me, the number one piece of advice I have is humble yourself enough to know that you're not meant to navigate this alone. You're just not meant to. And knowing that you're not meant to, who can you turn to get the support and the loving environment that you need, along with the nudges of this is how you shift your life? Who in your life can you have that experience with? And how can you cultivate a relationship with another individual who might be a little further along in the process than you are and might have the tools that you need in order to create the life that you want? So start with support. That would be my absolute biggest piece of advice, is start with support. I just don't believe that any of us are meant to navigate this on our own. What about you, Nims?
No, I couldn't agree more. And it's that for me, there's two parts of that support, right? One is the human support, and the human support comes from the guides that Stacey was just talking about, right? And the other thing is also connecting with your guides on the spiritual. And there's two things to remember. One is to remember that the guides that you have, humanly, you have a soul contract with. So I really believe that anyone I've worked with, I've connected with, I was meant to connect with them. And I have a soul contract with. It's like we're recording this. Actually, Stacey, can you go on mute just for a sec? Because I can just go background. And there was today we're recording this, and it's actually Sidra's birthday. So I would have been out, I'm sure, celebrating her birthday. And for those that don't know, Sidra was my mentor, my guide, my friend, but she's no longer in this realm, and she continues to be one of my guides. And I know that my connection with her is a soul contract. And it's interesting because then when she left this realm, that's when I learned how to read Akashic records, and I learned that she's now one of my guides. And here's the thing: you have guides on the other side that your soul picked. They're here to support you unconditionally, and you have guides, human guides, that again you have soul contracts with. And it's like anyone that you're meant to work with, feel it in your heart and your soul. It's not a head decision. For sure, you can read reviews or whatever else, but if you have friends or if you have someone in your life and they touch you at a heart level, know that in some way you have a soul contract with them. And if you resonate with somebody and you're looking for a mentor or a guide, again, see how you feel in your heart before you make a decision. Because our ego wants us to do everything on our own. And the thing is that none of us need to be fixed. And even when you talk about surrender, recording this podcast, right? I mean, before we recorded it, both we moved to a different app because we want better quality. And before we're recording it, we're both talking about the mics that we use and all that sort of stuff. And during the podcast, the universe has jokes, right? So the mic I'm using decided, I don't know why, but it decided to unplug. And then when it replugged, I couldn't go back to using it for whatever reason. So I'm just using my laptop mic, and it's like there's a part of me is like, oh my God, should I stop recording? then start again after the mic's connected. And I was going through this process in my mind, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to surrender. Whatever. For whatever reason, the energy was high. The mics decided to stop working. The universe has jokes, and I just let go. It's like, it's fine. So if the sound isn't as good as normal, my apologies. It's the universe having some jokes, and I just surrendered. And it's just a little example of surrendering. And I love, because the universe does, and that's the other thing is, it doesn't all have to be all serious. It's not meant to be, we're a soul having a human experience, which means that some of it's meant to be fun. And so introduce some fun. But when you're learning to get to know your guides, when you work with mentors, for sure know that it's going to get intense, but also there's a beauty and there's a magic connecting with your gifts, living your purpose, connecting with your destiny. It doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to have challenges, because we are here to experience life, right? But it does mean that you'll also experience lots of magic moments. So embrace your journey, surrender, let go of the wheel, and just have fun on this journey. And I get it, make it sound simple. But first thing always starts with the intention. So do go back and do that process that Stacey took us through, but check in with your intention and choose to let go. Because it is us really wanting to control. It's our expectations of how certain things look like that cause us the most frustration. So make a decision today. Let go. You could make a decision to reach out to us and let us guide you. Maybe that's something you decide to do as part of your surrender. Like we said at the beginning, we want to offer the first 3 listeners that reach out, mentorship 4 months for the price of 3, something that we just wanted to give back. But just allow yourself to surrender and connect with your heart and soul, and just trust your guides, trust the universe. So Stacey, as we come to the end of this podcast, you know what I'm going to ask you. Any final bits of advice and any general prompts that you have for our listeners?
So I would say one of the first things that I would ask yourself is, what is holding you back from surrendering? And if fear was not an issue, how would you surrender? What would that look like for you?
Love it. Always good journal prompt stuff, Stacey. And I know you love some journaling, and it's always there. And yeah, really do reach out to us. We love it when you send us a DM, give us feedback. It really does help when you like, review, share this podcast. It gets to more people. So if you like what you hear, please do share it. And if there's any topics you want us to cover, I always love receiving that sort of feedback. If there's anything you want us to do differently, please let us know. Love to hear your feedback. And like I said, we have a promo for the first 3 listeners that reach out. We'd love to mentor you. We'd love to guide you. It really does feel like a soul contract. So if our voice resonates at a heart level, reach out. Maybe we can help. I love this podcast. I talking about surrender and letting go is something that I've been working on for a while. And look, we all have ups and downs, right? There's times when we all struggle with surrendering. There's times I've struggled with surrendering and just letting go and trusting. So I encourage you to really set the intention of surrendering, giving yourself love, time, and space to do it. So I'm sending you so much love and light and wishing you this next phase of whatever you're going through to be ease and grace. And Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you to close up.
Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us again. Would love to hear some feedback on those of you who decided to surrender through this process that we did today. So reach out to us. We always love hearing from you. Thanks again, Nims, for another beautiful episode. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Stacey. Sending you love and light. Bye.